What's up guys, welcome back. Hood's up, looking at an empty engine bay, and I've got an engine hoist sitting over there. That only means one thing, time to put the engine back in the car. Alright, so I've already got the V-mount slash crash bar removed from the car. You can just see it sitting over there. So engine bay is just about ready for the engine to drop in. The engine's sitting here on the engine hoist, and I just got a couple parts I got installed. I've got my Group N engine mounts, and I am running Cusco's twin disc clutch system, which has a lightweight flywheel and lightweight aluminum pressure plate. This twin disc is more than capable of handling the power that I'm going to be throwing at it and everything I'll be doing with the car. And also I want to give a big shout out to Howard from AR Fabrication for building this insane beast of an engine. So stoked to get this new engine in the car. And also a massive shout out to Ferreira Racing for hooking me up with all the valve training. So I'm going to get this all bolted up and then drop the engine into the car. Jumping right back into final assembly on the race car. And now it is time to move on to the inside. Got a whole ton of stuff to go over in today's episode. Everything from putting in the factory wiring harness. I've got to install the new fuel cell, make some new fuel lines, make some new brake lines, install the new pedal box in the car, put the fire suppression system back in, put the rear suspension back in the car, install the new battery box, install the seats, the console, the dash, all that fun stuff. So I'm going to start with the factory wiring harness. Going to install that in the car while everything else is out, so I have all the room in the world to do what I got to do. So I'm going to start with that, and then we'll see what's next. Let's get to it. Alright, so that's pretty much going to do it for the wiring harness for now. The factory harness is really big, bulky, and really heavy. You know, one thing I wanted to do this year, I just couldn't afford it, was get rid of the whole factory wiring harness and put in a racing harness. Not only is it good for saving a bunch of weight, but it just simplifies the entire wiring system of the car. You get rid of the factory fuse panel, the factory relay system, and just simplifies everything. That's something I'm going to do down the road. But for now, I want to concentrate on the fuel and brake system. And to do that, I have my brand new fuel cell here from FuelSafe. Shout out to FuelSafe for hooking me up with this awesome FIA 3.5 certified fuel cell. It's their Spectralite model. It's a 15-gallon fuel cell. And also, big shout out to Radium for hooking me up with the fuel cell surge tank already installed in the fuel cell. Another shout out to Design Engineering for hooking me up with this floor and tunnel shield product that they make. I'm going to be inserting this into the fuel cell box, and what that's going to do is just try and keep the temps down from the exhaust that's going to be running underneath the fuel cell box. So I'm going to get this cut down in size, insert it into the fuel cell box, and then we can move on to dropping the fuel cell in. Alright, so I've got the Design Engineering floor and tunnel shield all inserted around the entire fuel cell box. So now that that's all done, we can move on to installing the FuelSafe fuel cell. And if you guys remember a few episodes back, I was telling you about the laser cut brackets that I had designed in order to fit the fuel cell. So let's just see how good my math is. Hopefully the fuel cell drops in and all these little holes line up perfectly to the fuel cell, and I can bolt it in without a hitch. Let's see what happens. Alright, check that out. Fuel cell is bolted in, fit perfectly without a hitch. Looks like I know how to do some math. I'll give you another view from back here. And you can see the fuel cell with the big fuel safe logo on there, radium surge tank right in the center, and that looks amazing. So let's move on to the next thing. All right, so I've got some of the fuel lines already installed on the fuel system. I'm actually running Goodridge's G-Line XF 910 hose, which is actually their top of the line hose that they manufacture. It's a super lightweight hose, aramid fiber wrapped, PTFE line. Really, really good, top quality. This is basically what's used by all professional race teams, this exact hose. So I've got the feed and return line ran off the fuel cell into a bulkhead fitting, and again my vent line, which is actually looped around the back of the fuel cell here and then drops down into a breather filter. So I'm going to put the fuel system on hold for now, and I'm going to move up to the brake lines. So I've already gone ahead and made these two rear brake lines back here, which feed each rear wheel, and now I'm going to make the line that actually feeds these two lines, which is going to run from here up around the fuel cell box, around the front, and then into the hydraulic handbrake. So first thing I need to do is mount the hydraulic handbrake back into the car, and then the lines will run into the back of the handbrake. So I'm going to get the brake lines all done for the handbrake, and then I also need to do the line that runs from the front of the handbrake to the proportioning valve, and then the other two lines which are going to run to the firewall. So I'm going to get all the brake lines out of the way, and then I'll figure out what's next. Let's go. Alright, so that's pretty much going to do it for the brake lines for now. You can see I've got the proportioning valve mounted with the two front brake lines that run out onto the firewall for the front wheels. Then you've got your single rear line that comes out into the hydraulic handbrake, out the hydraulic handbrake, up and around the fuel cell, up to here into the T-fitting, which splits off to the two rear wheels. The only thing left I have to do with the brakes now is just the feed and return lines for the pedal box, but that'll be really easy. I'll get to that when I go to do the pedal box install. So the next thing I want to do while we're still running lines through the car is install the fire suppression system. So I already had this system installed in the car last year, with the exception that the tank was actually mounted in the trunk. So all these lines for the most part should just go right back in, with the exception of the main feed line. Gonna have to get cut a little bit shorter because the tank's gonna be mounted now right here on this bracket that I made directly next to the fuel cell instead of in the trunk area. So I'm gonna get the fire suppression system back installed in the car, and then move on to whatever's next. Alright, so that's going to do it for the fire suppression system. I've got the line that comes out, runs up along the car here, and then you can see all the fittings where the lines all separate up to the driver's compartment. And then there's, of course, one of the lines that runs along here on the outside of the car. And then you've got the nozzles, which are in the engine bay, 4 here in the engine bay, and then there are 2 in the inside of the car pointed at the driver's feet. So that's all done. Now I'm going to mount my oil accumulator. So I've already actually, same thing, drilled the holes. This is going to mount here on the fuel cell box. I've got my rib nuts installed. So we're just going to mount the clamps, install the accumulator, and again using the Goodridge 910 line with the crimped fittings on here. And this line actually runs along the front of the floor area into this fitting here, and then there's another hose connected on the other side of that bulkhead and runs underneath the car and up to the engine bay to the oil cooler. So I'm going to get this all mounted up, and then I think I'm going to install the coilovers. So let's get this all mounted in and let's get going. Alright, so everything's starting to come together, starting to look like a race car again. Got the oil accumulator all mounted up, fire suppression system, brake lines are all in. Now I want to get the rear suspension back in the car. So what I'll be doing is reinstalling my Cusco 03X coilovers. Huge fan of these coilovers. They feature monotube design. They are 24-way adjustable with high and low speed compression on the external reservoirs, and your rebound setting is on the bottom of the shock tube. As you can see, lots of room for ride height adjustment. They are pillow ball, and your camber adjustment plates are up here on the top. And these coilovers work amazing. I'm gonna get these mounted in the new strut towers, and you know, all that fabrication work in designing the strut towers and these custom brackets to hold the external reservoirs, it's so nice to just, you know, finally get to that point where all the hard work of the fabrication, everything's now painted now, and now we're on final assembly, and it all makes it worth it in the end to reinstall the parts that were there and the way everything was designed, is to see it all come together. It just makes it all worth it. So I'm gonna get these rear coilovers mounted in the back of the car, and put the suspension all back together, and then we'll go on to whatever's next. Alright, time to take a bit of a break from the inside of the car. Got a lot done so far, but now I want to go ahead and install the carbon fiber roof. Because I need to get the front and rear windows installed very soon, the roof's got to go on first, and the adhesive takes about 6 to 12 hours to set, so I'm going to get the carbon fiber roof installed now. So I've got the carbon fiber roof sitting over here. A few weeks back I test fitted the roof, trimmed it to fit, and also went ahead and cut out the hole for the Spec C roof vent. But quick recap again, it's a 7-layer carbon fiber / Kevlar roof, and just super lightweight. Doesn't weigh no more than 1 or 2 pounds. I'm really stoked to get this roof installed on the car. So I've also gone ahead already and prepared the entire roof structure of the car. To install the roof, I'm going to be using a 2-part epoxy adhesive. So I'm going to get a bead of adhesive applied all the way around the car, drop the roof into place, clamp it in place, and let it set. So let's get going. Guys, sorry I've got to cut this build episode a little short. Unfortunately, I ran out of time when I was putting the car back together, as I had an event scheduled that I had to have the car at, and I just didn't have the time to finish filming the rest of the final assembly process. You know, I filmed the first half of this episode back in July of 2018, and it's now February of 2019, so a few months have definitely passed. Hopefully most of you are following me on Instagram. If you are, you already know the final outcome of the car and how everything turned out. But I figured let's do a little walk around review video of the car, kind of the same way I kicked off this build series a year ago. So without further ado, here's the car, fully finished. Alright, so obviously the most notable thing that's different on the car is the Subaru WRC livery wrap. Now, hopefully you saw my Subaru WRC barn find video where I actually revealed the new wrap and got some cool shots of it, but I never really got a chance to kind of go over it in detail. So the wrap was designed by Skeppel Inc., and I just absolutely love the design of this wrap. A lot of back and forth between me and Skeppel. I had a bunch of ideas and they made it all happen. You know, one of the cool things is it's got a lot of carbon fiber showing through here on the wrap. It looks like the paint's all kind of faded away, and you've got carbon coming through. You've got dirt and mud down here in this area. The original neon yellow livery logo, it's got signs of cracking and burning and kind of all these weird marks, things fading away on it. Even the original 2005 Rally Monte Carlo door card on there. Moving along to the back here. You know, this looks like you've got some carbon fiber rub mark right down the side of the car. And actually, this is pretty cool here. This is actual rubber from the SEMA show back in November. I had the car there. I was with Hoonigan in their endless summer of shred, putting on demos with the car all week. Had an absolute blast. Unfortunately, the car wasn't cooperating for the most part, but still such a cool experience nonetheless. Moving on to the back of the car here, this is actually another cool feature of the wrap, is the Subaru World Rally Team logo, which looks like the original logo was removed and you've got that gluey residue left behind. Another cool feature of the wrap. Same thing back here, we made it look like a lot of the bumpers have actually been burned and cracked from the exhaust. All right, actually going back to Hoonigan and SEMA back in November, I actually won the King of the Yard award there on one of the days that I was putting on demos. And I actually had everyone over at Hoonigan sign the poster. Big shout out to them again for letting me hang out with them for that entire week. So moving back to the wrap, even all my sponsors logos down here, we got Garrett and Motul, everything's all cracked, and again, same thing, looks like it's all fading away. Got a bunch of rubber on the back of this bumper here. You know, same thing up here, you got carbon coming through behind the door handles, more cracks and everything up here in the vinyl. And actually, this is pretty funny. So the car, as you know, has a legit carbon fiber roof, and yet I have carbon fiber printed in the vinyl over the real carbon roof. But again, going back to that detail, you've got marks here of where the original camera system would have been mounted on the car. You've got these marks here where the antennas would have been mounted on the car, and again, just adding to the realism of the wrap, make it look like it's patinaed and sitting in a barn for 10, 15 years. Same thing up here on the hood. We've got more carbon and rub marks. You've got some marks here that looks like it's been driving and dried up. This is the original 2005 Rally Monte Carlo logo. Looks like it's all fading and cracking away. And actually, if you remember in my last review video, it's kind of funny that I'm in the same situation. As I said, every Subaru owner should be familiar with this. No engine in their engine bay. Obviously, the engine's back out, and we're making a few more changes this year. More on that later. Other than that, nothing else is too different under here. And then you've got your fire suppression and battery kill switch. Same thing. Everything looks like it's all cracked, fading away. But yeah, so let's move on to the inside of the car. All right, let's start with the front passenger side here. So one of the things I had to do in order to fit my factory STi door cards is I actually had to cut the door cards apart in order for them to clear the roll cage. I bet there's a few WRX owners right now that are just shaking their head wishing they could have bought these STi door cards off of me. But yeah, so moving right along, I installed the carbon fiber footrest for the passenger, and same Sparco seats, same Sparco competition belts, but I actually also went ahead and installed this Sparco comm system in the car. And here you can see on the belt here where the headsets plug in, and here are the two Sparco headsets right here that really cut down on road noise when you're driving the car. But everything else on the inside pretty much the same for the most part. And of course, one of the biggest things from the last videos is the carbon fiber roof. And don't worry, the JDM STi Spec C roof vent fit perfectly, no issues. But so everything in there turned out really good. Let's move to the back of the car. So back here, the door panels actually cleared, no issues. I didn't have to do anything to that. And here we have the Lifeline fire suppression system all mounted up. And the custom box that I made for the fuel cell, everything fit perfectly. Fuel cell dropped right in. All right, let's go into the trunk. All right, moving into the trunk area here. See everything all painted, everything turned out really good. I know one thing I didn't show you guys was all of the sheet metal work that I did to finish off the fuel cell box in the back area here. When I cut out the floor originally, there was a couple indentations and holes from the original fuel tank. So I basically built up some sheet metal, changed the design a little bit, and got everything flowing a little bit more smoothly back here. Another thing I know I didn't show you guys was this bracket welded to the side of the rear tub here. And that is actually something that you would see similar on a WRC car, where it usually has quick disconnect dry brake fittings on here. And that's where they'll actually refuel the cars in the paddock area. I was originally going to buy the fittings for here, but I think it was like $2,000 or $3,000 for, you know, basically just a couple of fittings on either end here. So I've kind of cheated and went with just a couple of bulkhead fittings.
And for now, these lines here are just capped off. As you can see, eventually I'm going to have a fuel filler neck mounted over here. But it is kind of the same look that you would see in a WRC car. Obviously, they just wouldn't have these two hoses attached all the time. This would actually just be capped off. For now, I'm refueling up here on the filler neck on the radium surge tank. But once that filler neck goes in, it's going to be a pretty trick looking setup. Other than that, though, everything looks pretty good. Everything came out nice in the trunk area here. You can see it's already getting a little scratched up. That trip out to LA, I had a bunch of stuff in the back of the trunk here, and again, not a show car. That's it for the trunk. All right, moving to the inside of the car. For the most part, of course, other than the cage, everything is pretty much the same as you can see. But one thing I never got a chance to show you guys is the AP Racing pedal box. And you know, with the sliding mechanism that I made for it, this works really good inside the car. I absolutely love this pedal box. Super comfortable to drive the car with this box inside the car. And as you can see, the floor's already gotten completely scratched up just after driving it for a few months. Let's jump inside the car and look at something else I never got a chance to show you guys. Just pull this wheel off because I can't get in otherwise. All right, so the big thing that stands out obviously is the new digital dash display. Let's put some power to the car here and we'll take a look at this. And as you can see, it is a Cosworth ICD digital dash. See it boot up here. So that's the new dash display, and we already have a battery low warning light came up on the screen. But shout out to FLI Fine Line Imports. That's who I purchased the display from. And they also included a 3D printed bracket that actually bonds to the factory dash surround. Gives you a really nice fitment of the dash. And got a page button that's over here mounted on the dash, and you can kind of just flip through different pages on the display. You've got different gauge readings and different layouts and all that. Here you can see you can actually look at individual sensors and actually, you know, data log and all that kind of cool stuff. So such an awesome display to have in the car. And again, you would see this display in many modern rallycross cars. Porsche GT3 Cup cars are running this display. And I believe even some of Ken Block's cars are running this exact same display. So such an awesome display to have in the car over what most other people are running. So that's pretty much going to do it for the inside of the car. All right, that's pretty much going to do it for me for this episode. Actually, you know what? I'm going to say it right here, right now. This is the Build Series Season 1 finale because Season 2 is up next. I've got a ton of new parts and more changes to make to the car. So make sure you guys subscribe to this channel, hit that little bell notification, and I'll see you guys in Season 2.